So I answered the call laying in the bed or on the stretcher inside the ambulance. And he said, "Hey, I heard you had just got in an accident and I'm calling to see if I can do anything, see how you're doing." He impacted me so much. Tears came out of my eyes at that point. Just, man, who does that? Who reaches out and says, "Hello, welcome back to Like-Minded Servants with me, Cecil Graves." This is a podcast for leaders and entrepreneurs who will get better every day. In my first episode, we talked about my why. We talked about an impactful story of leaving a family business to start a new business and the impact it had on my life, the struggle that I felt, the growth that I got from that experience, and ultimately the blessing that it was on my life and others, and how I get to carry that story forward and share it with like-minded servants like us. So we're going to get in today and talk about one of those four key components, which were emotionally, mentally, physically. Today we're going to talk about spiritually. The spiritual strength training that I received during that time was truly amazing. If you didn't get to listen to that episode, please go back and listen to that. Now, most of us learn through stories or life experiences. So I will be using a very powerful story that was actually during that time with a local man here close to us that's actually an actual mentor for me before I even left my family's dealership. He's been super helpful. Before we jump back into that story, let me just go back inside the wreck and just give you some perspective. Even at that moment, I knew we had impacted people and I was forced. So the key word is force. Sometimes we don't just get better spiritually. Sometimes God forces us to get better spiritually. Everything was taken from me in less than 15 seconds. 15 seconds, everything was gone. I had absolutely no control like I thought I had. He slowed me down in a very powerful way. And this is now not in an audible voice. That never happens with me. Maybe it happens with other people. But this is how I felt God was talking to me. He said, "Cecil, listen to me. I need you to fully trust me if you want to be successful. It is critical that you be positive moving forward to maximize every human interaction." And that just kept getting repeated over and over in my head. So it didn't matter what was going on at that time. There was no other option. Being negative would only kill the situation and not help, not get me through it and not get other people through it. As a Christian leader, God is a big part of my day. But do we as leaders genuinely trust Him? Or like most entrepreneurs, we are typically controlling because we're trying to create a future for ourselves, our families, our friends. So we tend to push through things. And when we do that, we don't give God a lot of room to work most of the time. And I felt like I was doing that so much more before that wreck. And then after that wreck, I'm stopping, I'm disconnecting like Jocko always talks about, and backing up from the situation and going, how can I impact other people in a better way? So let's go back to the question before I get into the story today. And that question is, how do we trust God so that we can grow spiritually with Him daily? I remember the story. Either we were in the governor's mansion in the ambulance, and I got a call from a local agent named Sam Johnson. It could have been when I was coming out of my first surgery too. It was really soon after the wreck. As soon as he had heard I had been in a wreck, he didn't waste any time. He picked up the phone. He called. I saw he was calling. I knew he was probably concerned. So I answered the call laying in the bed or on the stretcher inside the ambulance. And he said, "Hey, I heard you had just got in an accident and I'm calling to see if I can do anything, see how you're doing." And we talked for a second. I gave him an update and he said, "Just know that God's with you. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this." But the impactful part of what he said was, if you need me to cover your payroll until you can go back to work, I would be happy to do that for you or help with your staff in any way. And that's taken time to be a servant. He impacted me so much. Tears came out of my eyes at that point. Just, man, who does that? Who reaches out and says, he probably knew I didn't even need that, but to give me peace of mind and for him to really be a reflection of who God is to us, he knew that would be impactful to me. And that is something I hope to be one day to Cecil 20 years from now, the Cecil that's 18 years old, as I said in the first episode. That's how I get to go back and impact people, by sharing his story and then doing what he did for me. Even though it was verbally over the phone, it was so caring. There's so much strength. Anytime I tell that story about Sam, just that most people are so budget oriented and can't fathom somebody just has nothing to do with your business, but would cover your payroll. So that story was huge to me. I hope you felt that, and I hope that impacts you. Another big thing is during that accident in the Tahoe, I said I usually have somebody with me. One of the guys that helps me produce this podcast, he said, man, to think about that, not having anybody with you, but they weren't with you so they could be with you later. God did not put anybody in that Tahoe with me because I needed them from the hospital bed. I needed them to be the hands and feet of my agency to keep it going. That was just super impactful the other day as we're talking through this, seeing how to set this podcast up. There are so many stories of gratitude and spiritual strength because we look back at that horrible situation and realize there was a lot of fruit that came from it. So let's talk application. Let's talk of how you can apply something to your life to create spiritual strength inside that. That helps with mindset. So when you think of spiritual strength, sometimes you feel like you can't get to it because of your mindset, because you're thinking probably like I was at some point, what's the next bad thing that's going to happen? How many more things can possibly happen? If there is a God, why do these bad things happen? That's because that's my, some people say, stinking thinking, right? So you have to change your mindset and look around at what you can be grateful for now. That might be something as simple as your $5,000 car that you've got to ride back and forth to work. That might be something as simple as your wife and your kids. That might be something as simple as your church. But if you can wake up every morning and be grateful for those things, it'll lead to so much more to be grateful for. Let me tell you, I know you're probably riding down the road, you're sitting at work, miserable, you're wondering, how can I change my mindset, Cecil? It's going to take, you ever heard of eating the elephant? It's going to take one bite at a time. You're going to have to find something today that you can be grateful for. It may just be the meal that you have tonight, but start transitioning today. Stick with me through this process. I'm going to go through topics that will impact your life and create more gratitude and create more ways, not so much out of the situation, but a way into the situation that you look at it differently. Let me give you some application with saying that today, okay? There's a simple thing that I do. So if I'm headed home today and I'm in the Raising Cane's line and there is a minivan behind me with a mom full of kids, and you can look in your rearview mirror and you can see her face and she's just fit to be tied. And she's probably wondering, hey, I've got to keep this budget in line. I got 6 of these kids. I got to get home. I got to do laundry. Maybe she's a single mom. I don't know. But change your mindset when you pull up to that window and ask that lady that's taking your money if you can actually pay for the lady behind you. Do this at the gas station. If someone looks like they're struggling, walk over to an older person and say, hey, let me slide my card in the pump and catch your tank of gas. Do it when you get home. Now, I'm not 100% on this, so if you see me at the gas station and I'm not buying someone else's tank of gas that day, hey, I'm sorry. But try to do it sometime during the week just so you can feel what gratitude is, because that will change that person's mindset. And it may not be that you need to feel it. It may need that you need to serve someone in order to feel it. I was going to get to, say, with your spouse, you get home and instead of walking in the house and kicking your feet up on the couch, maybe walk in and ask, hey, what needs to be done? Maybe it's just your wife's laundry that you could go do, fold it, and put it on the bed. That's serving someone. That's serving people that are around you all the time. So let's wrap up today in closing in this episode. I hope I've been helpful. I hope you can take some of that. You don't have to take all of it, but some of that and apply it today. If you didn't hear anything but go to Raising Cane's and buy the person behind you, buy their meal for the evening, just go do that and you'll feel what I felt, and it will change your life. Tomorrow you will wake up more grateful by doing that. I've enjoyed my time with you today. Please come back for our next episode. We've got a variation of topics we're going to cover. We've got guests to come on. At some point, I'm going to start taking your questions so that we can get better direction on what you need, and coming in here with those questions, answering those questions, and still impacting your life. As always, thank you for watching our show. If you could share it on your social media platform at Like Minded Servants. It's on YouTube. You can share the YouTube videos. What else? I think that's it for today. So let's go serve someone today so that we can all get better together. Thank you.